let's talk about the most common conflicts. So Bruce Tuckman, you can write it down. He wrote a book about team dynamics. He's one of the forefront or the fathers of team dynamics, and he came up with 5 different phases. That is the forming, storming, norming, performing, adjourning phase. And this is basically how team development looks like. It's never a linear process, as maybe, or from your perspective, a linear process that you might think in the beginning, because you feel like, oh, when you develop, you go one step at a time. But it goes like a roller coaster. I always say like, oh, this is a roller coaster ride. Sometimes you go up, but sometimes you need to go down as well to get some traction and to get speed in order to go up again. So you need certain types of momentum and dynamics. So this graph doesn't always look the same. It depends on the team, who's coaching, the players involved, what the willingness is within the team to change as well, to find compromises, building bridges between one another to find the right way and not their way. So to give a quick overview, forming phase is the start of the team. Storming phase is when we get to know each other and we are conflicting and confronting each other with our different perspectives. And then the norming phase, when we find ways and rules and agreements to get everything together, and then everything clicks, then we can perform and everyone is, let's say, very happy about how things are going, because everyone knows what the strengths and weaknesses are within the team and they can perform very well. And the adjourning phase is when they go to a different tournament, a different team, or the cycle resets because the tournament is over and we need to recover in order to select our next objective for the next season, for example. So now I put the red box over the storming phase, and this is the place where most of the tragedy happens. So in the beginning, of the people that are here also said in the workshop channel, they said like, yeah, I've been with a couple of conflicts already and the team disbanded because of it. They couldn't resolve it. And it's just like a tragedy, because I hear it a lot of times, and probably perhaps if you're watching this right now or you're listening to this, everyone has a kind of experience, especially within esports at this stage where it's still young and still developing, that people don't know really how to handle these types of conflicts. And it happens when there's a forming phase, and then in the beginning everyone is happy and in a very polite way, and then there comes denial because things just start to slip into the cracks, and then there comes anger. So for you guys, if you like to see more of this graph and more information, I won't go too deep because we're talking about conflicts alone. But I will put the link down below in this video about the basics of team dynamics in esports. It's a video on the Next Level Esports YouTube channel, so you can check it out to go way more in depth into the basics of team dynamics. So, but we're looking at the denial and anger phase first. So first, the denial. So how do you recognize the denial phase? Players have frustrations or disagreements, but they don't speak openly about it. They talk behind the team's back. So an example of this is you feel like there are tensions within the team, and when the scrims are over and you're chilling after the scrims or practice is over, and a couple of players and you as a coach or players stay within a chilling environment, and they say like, yeah, that player was a little bit off today. I hope he will pick something else different. Or I hope he gets a good night rest because his communication was totally off today. But they didn't speak about it inside the practice, that they were frustrated or they felt a bit let down by the particular player. So they're talking behind teammates' back, or maybe behind your back, or they come to you. It can be anything. As long as it's not in the full broad daylight within the whole team environment, then it's talking behind the back, and we're talking about denial. So number 2 is feedback or criticism is not always prioritized. So in the beginning, when people are new, you hear different perspective. Oh, you should do this and this and this. And you think like, yeah, but that doesn't make sense. So you just nod and be like, yeah, smile and wave, boys, smile and wave. And be like, yes, but in fact, you mean maybe, perhaps, maybe later. Or even just, I know, like, yes, I'm gonna do it. No, not at all. So it's about this situation that you feel like, okay, it's fine. It's hard to find this connection with this type of player, so they don't really see the criticism that I gave him, or even constructive criticism towards that player, sinking in. I don't really see a change, and that builds on to more frustration and irritation. So the players more look in this phase in the beginning, when you see it happening, what they individually want, what is important to me, instead of looking at what the team needs. And if this piles on over and over again, then you get into the anger. And this is a place where a lot of conflicts happen with many teams. So frustrations and disagreements are openly discussed. Everyone is saying like, oh, that is so bad. Also from last 2 weeks, I saw the pattern that you're not communicating right, or I feel like you don't give two shits about what we do within the team, or I don't feel like you're paying attention, or they don't take in criticism. Instead of talking behind the back, they had it because nothing is changing, and then they put out their anger out there and the frustrations openly within the team environment. And relations are under pressure at that stage and need to be facilitated. So this is really important. And if you're having some pen and paper at the ready, relations are under pressure, and within this phase, within the storming phase, and where the most of the conflict happens, that is more toxic or can be detrimental for the team environment and the development of the whole team, it needs to be facilitated. So you as a coach or as a player want to sit with a player and talk through these misalignments, these conflicts, and where you agree and don't agree, and find a way through it. There's no such thing as spending too much time on staying in sync with each other. There is no such thing as spending too much time trying to get on the same page. And this is the place where you really want to facilitate this relationship. Instead of being distant towards another, start to build bridges. Let them look at each other and walk to each other, so they don't have to shout, but they can talk to each other and can resolve the issue, what is right for the team and not only right for them. So at this stage, the player perception shifts to what others want as well. And this can be a good source for conflicts, good and bad, depending on how you handle it. And how should you handle it? Openness is what you need. And there is always within the conflict, you have different ways of doing it in step-by-step things. And there's a lot of to be found on the internet, but it all boils down to this. So this is what I want to give you in order to grasp and understand, in order so you can use it. So the team, when they are in conflict with each other and you feel like, okay, this is not beneficial constructive criticism, the team screams for openness when there are many conflicts. There needs to be some kind of vent where they can speak their thoughts and their frustrations out into the open, so everyone knows what that person individually is dealing with, so everyone can see it in plain daylight, and then we can revolve around it. But you have to have a certain type of mentality and mindset for that, and you have to be open. So you want to facilitate this openness by setting some ground rules. And if you have this type of conflict right now, perhaps in the team, this is not something that you do in 5 minutes, right? People have emotions. People are maybe easy to change. Some people are harder to change in terms of behavior. They need a little bit more time to sink in. So at least schedule a good amount of time, maybe 1-2 depending on the scale of the conflict that is lingering within the team, maybe even a full day or a full afternoon with the team with a couple of breaks in between, so you can vent and walk around and just take a hold of yourself from time to time. But it's good to get it open to everyone, to be open. And if you're having these type of situations, you want to set some ground rules. So we need to understand when we do this that all criticism will be presented openly. So don't hold anything back that you feel like, oh, this is how I feel, but I try to say it in a different way, or I hold it for myself, it's not ready yet. If we're talking about conflicts, if we want to solve it, we have to instill that confidence and that safety with some ground rules, that everything and everyone is open with each other and that everything is presented openly. Then number 2 is that the criticism is constructive. So what the hell does that mean? Constructive criticism. Is it like first giving a compliment and then give you criticism? Is it give you criticism but be objective? There's a lot of types and ways to handle constructive criticism. So I will give you some couple of examples because I don't leave you empty-handed, with some practical things as well. So let's jump into that part as well. So there are different types of constructive criticism, and these are the 5 common ones. And at the end of those examples, we will dive deep into them and also give a couple of sentences so you know, to understand how does that actually look like, so you can tinker it and engineer it for your own type of context, but you know, maybe some kind of wordings or some kind of direction where you should look at. So, but at the end, I want you to pick 1 or 2 of these that you are going to actively work on, that you are going to use in your next type of conflict management conversation in order to build bridges and to provide constructive criticism. So 1 or 2, maybe if you feel like, oh yeah, I already know 1 or 2, maybe pick 3 that you feel like comfortable in. It's up to you, but I suggest to use it, because if you don't use it, you will lose it. So don't only take this in like, oh yeah, that makes sense, and yeah, this sounds interesting. Use it or lose it. So let's jump into the first one. So the first one is start with the positives. That a part of behavior that you're criticizing is positive as well. So for example, with you being quiet most of the time, it gives room for others to communicate and set up plans. Last practice, you were clean and efficient on your communication, and I like that, and we gained a lot from it. So that is a compliment, something positive, with the type of behavior that you're now gonna criticize. So this practice, I felt like you were not there at all, and I believe our team's performance suffered because of that. It would be great if you would communicate at least the minimum things. We might want to go over those points together so we can align on that part. So it's not only dumping your criticism as well, but also giving perspective on how to improve and reaching out a hand in order to help that person and help the team in order to overcome this conflict or this type of criticism or something that a player is lacking or wants to improve or have forgotten in that moment or whatever. This type of criticism is a very effective one. But as you can see, this is just not saying what is on your mind in the most blunt way. It can be from time to time effective, but most of the time, from my experience, I would wish it would go like that, because I love to be direct. I'm a Dutch resident as well, so I'm from the Netherlands. We're all pretty direct, but a lot of countries are not. So we have a way different culture, and you have to think about those different cultures as well, and different perspectives, and also different personalities. So one person or one player is more sensitive and one is more direct, but we have to tinker a way to make everything feel comfortable and safe as well to confront each other with the criticism that we have, and that we can talk openly about it. So this is number 1. Then we go to number 2, and that is sandwich a constructive comment between 2 positive comments. So I believe this is one of the most common thing in terms of constructive criticism that is out there, that's easy to use. Sometimes it's also called the hamburger model. So you have 2 buns and the criticism is in between. So an example of this is, you are very vocal about your opinion. Let me take a sip first. You are very vocal about your opinion. It shows that you care a lot about the game. So it's a compliment. Sometimes, because you are very vocal, it can be hard for me and others to change your perspective on how other solutions can also reach our common goal. So that is a criticism. I believe you can be more receptive towards other players and see the value in their way of approaching the game as well. I think you can be a much better teammate to work with this way on top of the already good cooperation we have at the moment most of the time. So you end with a positive comment. So you have the hamburger model with something positive, criticism, and then end with a positive note. It's something easy to remember and also maybe more easy to apply than the first one, but it depends on the situation and who you are as a person, what you find more practical and usable for you. So number 3 is offer possible solutions and be specific. For example, sometimes I notice that you don't communicate when you do something off script. So when he's doing something out of the plan or the strategy. When you do a specific action outside the standard game state, as simple as a movement or item buy, I would like that you communicate that to the team. For example, moving to X location now, or bought X item, play around it. So this is something to offer the possible solution and be very specific on what kind of behavior or what kind of thing you want to see from the player, without staying too personal or you did something really bad or whatever. You help in with seeing from your perspective what you think is valuable. So this could be one of the things that you like of constructive criticism, perhaps. So number 4 is focus on the objective, not the person. When looking at the map state and the enemy team is doing X, countering it with action I or item Z is mandatory. Use the knowledge of the map state next time in similar situations before an action. So this focuses on the objective, the game elements on itself, and what is objectively played out in the game or in the VOD view, what is foreseeable. Now you don't speak towards that person that he did something wrong or something right or whatever. You are pointing out at the objective thing in the moment around the game, what he can improve and how to improve it. So it's not a personal attack, but something you give as wrapped criticism, but you also help him. Because criticism about only, let's say, flaming the other person, what you dislike, how is that beneficial? So also think of something to add on, some constructive criticism, so the other person can work on it in an actionable action. Then number 5, use the I language. So instead of focusing on that person, you, let's say, more emphasis on your own way to tackle your frustration or providing criticism about something. So the other person really knows that it's coming from you, that is your opinion, your stance on how you perceive and view the game or the game state or a specific choice, compared to the other people. So it's more personal towards you. You keep it more to yourself, and maybe that's more of what you like. So for example, I love your idea to play more methodical and have set strategies, and it also makes me afraid that we will lose our spontaneity as a team. So I love your idea, compliment, and have set strategies, and so not a but and at the same time, simultaneously, also makes me afraid that we'll lose our spontaneity as a team, because I believe that is one of our core strengths. I believe I would like to keep spontaneous elements in our gameplay so we keep our team identity and strengths. So this is also a very different perspective to give some criticism towards some idea, a play style, an action, or anything else. So you keep it close towards yourself. So other people know that it's coming from them and their perspective alone, and not an attack from there towards that particular player that it's designated towards. So let's come back and to involve and activate the people that are here in the workshop channel. So which one do you like the most? So is that start with the positives, that a part of behavior that you're criticizing is positive as well? Or 2, sandwich, a constructive comment between 2 positive comments. 3, offer possible solution and be specific. Focus on the objective, not the person, or use the I language. All right, so I see 1. I also see I use 1 and 3. So offer possible solutions and be very specific. Very good. And maybe there's something that you feel like, yeah, this maybe can work as well, or something that I will like to use or want to develop my skill into, because I feel like, yeah, this hits close to home with me, that I feel comfortable in. So here I see 1 and 4 is really effective in my opinion. Yeah, so start with positives and then focus on the objective, not the person, right? For sure. All of these work very good, but obviously depending on the person who you are facing, who you are as a coach as well, or as a player, also depends on all those factors what hits best. But if you feel like, okay, this is where I feel mostly comfortable, I feel at home with 1 or 4, or maybe 2 and 3, then that is also a thing that works for you. If you feel comfortable with that, that is maybe your style or your philosophy. So other players know how you manage certain conflict situations as well, so they can develop in that part as well, and you are predictable, and that is also an important part. So think about that for yourself and make the decision which ones you're gonna use. So one comment is within the chat is, I don't see what's so good about the 5th. And then there was also a reply, 5th could be good with very emotional players. And that is correct. So if you are using the I language, the other person really sees that it's not an attack on you, but you are presenting your perception of the game. Just like if you've seen a movie, you're like, oh yeah, I really love this movie. It was super actionable, and they had very tough guys in it. There was a lot of shooting, fast cars, and I really like that. So you're not applying your opinion towards that other person of, yeah, you should like this movie because they have fast cars and they have tough guys and it's such a great movie, you should watch it because they have a lot of shooting in it and almost constant action. So you're applying your opinion towards them, but now you're presenting yourself what you like about that movie, and that is more, let's say, open, and especially for more what the person say, for very emotional players, they know you're only describing your perspective and not only that you are implying or that he feels attacked because you want something from him. You're just describing your own and your own perception alone.